Morrow, art teacher at St. Clair County High School. I'm going to talk to you today about some pre-ACT data and test scores. And we're going to develop as a plan of action with the pre-ACT. All right, so I'm going to go over the basics of the pre-ACT. Like, what is the pre-ACT? I mean, I know it's got ACT there, so obviously it's like the ACT. It's multiple choice format. It is timed like the ACT. Our sophomores take it in the fall every year. And test areas include math, science, STEM, English, and reading. Okay, so there are some benefits for the students and for us as educators to the pre-ACT. For the students, they get an estimated ACT score that will give them insight in what they need to improve on to improve their ACT score, which has effects on what college they want to get into, and also it gives indicators on their career and college readiness, on their coursework. They can also, I didn't know this until I started researching, they can actually share their scores with colleges pre-ACT, and it puts them in line for some scholarship and recruitment opportunities, which I didn't know about that. And it just gives them practice on taking a test like the ACT, so hopefully when they take the ACT, they'll have an easier time. I know the first time I took the ACT, I freaked out because I'd never taken a test like the ACT. So to me, that's a huge benefit. For the teachers, you get so much detailed data back from them about what their needs are, what they can improve on, what they missed. And so the counselors can also use that data to try to help plan out what courses they need to help improve their college and career readiness. It also gives us their areas of strength and weaknesses so that we can help them, like during our intervention classes, or things that they can work on their own. Since the ACT is such a high-stakes test for most of our students. All right, so the data. So here are our demographics for the sophomore class. 167 took the pre-ACT. Here's how it broke down with racial backgrounds. Most, of course, was white, and then we had Black African American. And then our next group was 2 or more. They identified as having 2 or more races. We got our gender, 80 males, 84 females, and I know Lori talked to y'all before about why the numbers didn't match up, because we had 3 that did not take. All right, so here's our score breakdown by gender. So I wanted to pull out what they scored the highest on, which actually both of them was reading, the composite for reading. So when you're looking at it, it'll give you like their main composite, but then it'll break it down for each subject area, give you a composite for that. So they did well with reading by gender. And then but they both scored lowest in English. So then I took the data and started looking at ethnic background from their demographics, and I pulled out their composite score. So for Black African American, their lowest was 10 in English. For white students, it was 15.3 in English. You're going to see a trend here. Guess what the other subject was? English. For Hispanic Latino was 11.8. But then let's talk about the good. What were their highs? All right, so for Black African American, we had 14.8, and that was STEM. For white, it was reading. That's really nice, that 19. That was one of our high points in our data. And for math, Hispanic Latino, 14.7. And I know we've been talking in some of our classes that we've been taking, that with this subgroup, maybe it's because they don't have to have a mastery of the English language as much because it's numbers instead. So I would like to see some comparisons there. But, all right, so how about the course pattern? Pre-ACT gets into this, like what did they take? And this is a problem I know Lori brought up. Sometimes what they say they take, is it really what they took? I don't know if they understood some of that. It is kind of weird when you look at the data. So does that have an impact on scores? So I pulled out English first. So the students that had English 9 and 10, which is what they should have to be on track, the basic level, there were 94, so that's a huge number. And it shows their composite as being a 16.6 and their English a 14.6. I mean, there were other groups that were higher, but that's just kind of the average that most students would score in. Then I got into math. Thank you, math department, for being here. And of course, I got to bring out some numbers with math. I started noticing, I was looking at, were there certain courses that might affect the math? It seems like the biggest thing is if they had 1 or more years of math. And to me, that was kind of like, does that mean higher level classes? Is that what that means to y'all when you'll see it? So then that would relate, okay, and they would do better. That group, 18.6. But there was not much change Algebra 1 and Geometry, and the ones that added Algebra 2 in. Okay, then we get into science. There seemed to be an impact of chemistry on this group. If they had chemistry, their scores seemed to be a little bit better. And then, of course, social studies had a huge impact. They kind of put that with reading. Of course, we can see that if they had some of these higher level social studies, their reading score was really, really good. That's another high point in our data. All right, so some issues, trends, and implications for us. I know Lori talked about this, but this gets into the frequency of the benchmarks. So I started breaking that data down. This is kind of bad that only 13% scored in the 75 to 100 percentile when looking at their just base composite. This was also concerning that in every subject, more students scored in the bottom half than the top, and comparing it to the national benchmarks. Of course, 30% of students scored 50 or above in math. So that's how that breaks down. Okay, trying to keep them on track for college coursework and how the ACT might affect that. Even though most were on track, I really couldn't tell that there was a whole lot of difference in the ones that said they weren't taking the courses and the ones that were. So there's a little more there. But there's no highlight. There's just not a lot of difference. Okay, so let's celebrate. Yay. There are some positives. No gender gap. I really couldn't find a big gender gap between the male and female, which I thought was interesting, because a lot of times, you know, you'll say, oh, maybe the male students are better in math, or girls might be better at reading, or something like that, but there just wasn't overall a big gender gap there. Only 10% indicated that they were undecided. That's positive. At least most of them seem to have a plan. They all plan on graduating. That's a big deal. That's an area to celebrate. And the idea of reading scoring the highest overall of 18 as the composite, and it was also the highest for males and females. And then, of course, there were 43 students that indicated that they needed help in their writing skills. And so because we have a new initiative this year of bringing writing into all the subject matters. So hopefully that will help. So I consider that a positive point, that hopefully that will help them. Okay, our weaknesses. Okay, this is one thing that concerns me, is that the average of 16.4 is still on average below probably what they need to have a minimum to get into most of the colleges that they want to get into. Our lowest, of course, was reading, our composite. 49% of the students said that they were planning college coursework, but they also feel like they need help with study and writing skills. Okay. This kind of breaks down some of that college and career readiness. That 63% of students said that they were going to attend college, but only half of the students are planning on attending four-year college or pursuing graduate or professional degrees or planning college coursework. So I know Lori brought that up, that there seems to be a disconnect there from what they're taking and what their plans are. All right, so what can we do next? What can be our next steps? Well, we have our new writing program, so hopefully that will help boost the English and the reading. We do have intervention class for our freshmen, well, not just freshman forum, but all the forums. And I know that I received data on my sophomores about the breakdown of how they scored on the pre-ACT and what they missed and what they needed to work on. And we do have the new math course realignment, so we'll see how that affects the pre-ACT. To me, one of the nice things about pre-ACT is that each student got like a detailed report that told them, hey, this is how you scored, this is how you compared to the benchmarks. So they got all that data. We also received the data. They also got something like this that showed them, hey, you know, maybe you need to take some more, like this student here, the gray is the core, the red is what they're taking. So this says that, you know, you might need to take some more math classes that are going to put you in a better place to be college and career ready. So that, to me, that report was interesting. I'm sure the counselors look at that. And then even something like just using math, but you get a detailed report of which ones you answered correctly, which ones you missed, and then what those areas were that you need to work on. So to me, this is huge, just the data. Anybody have any questions? lot of numbers.